He'll soon be dealt with. I'm the one who killed him, remember?
Well, who said we were worried? After you, my friend.
You're too kind.
What's up, closers? Welcome to episode 7 of Who the Fuck Closed Last Night. This week we're going to talk about hard and soft skills of front of the house hourly positions. And by that, we mean the hard skills that are absolutely necessary and the soft skills that make you great at what you do. Also, check out our social media for our next industry party on May 26th at 9 p.m. at Occidental as we celebrate the launch of their episode. We're going to have Ben DJing, Tom Berger, who created our artwork, and Bailey Gander, who designed our website, are going to be doing some live paintings, drink specials all night, and Jameson and Fernet giving away free shit as well. It's going to be a blast, so we hope to see you there. Until then, enjoy the episode. Surely they locked it.
Have you ever had anyone asleep in the restaurant? I know I've had one on patios before. We did, specifically.
Patios, yes. Patios.
You had a guy die on a patio, right?
We did at the Broadway
Go
location.
ahead and get real dark here.
Yeah, start off just super. No, that was actually he was in front of the kitchen door, and he was there for a long time before we realized he was not there.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're talking
that
about
was a real story. Yeah, we just
That's a different. We are
transitioned.
not talking about death at restaurants.
No, that's a
Which
different.
That's a topic.
That is
I
a
think we
topic.
just came up with an idea for
You
next.
did have that happen at one point.
I did. I'm not going to go. It was in this city, actually,
It was in this city. That's right.
that we're sitting in right now.
Yeah.
That's a story for another time.
Another time, absolutely.
Welcome officially.
Yeah.
To Who the Fuck Closed Last Night. This is
Welcome.
Chad. I'm Jacob.
Yeah. Well, dude, what are we covering today, man? What are we talking about?
Oh yeah. I feel like I just a moment ago said something that was relevant, but now I forgot. I'm in the stream of consciousness.
It's all right.
We're just in it.
That's right.
You know what? I'm just going to read the quote.
Read the quote. Yeah.
I've got a theme quote here. This is from. I'm going to say his name. I said it wrong last time. It's Danny Meyer. His book, Setting the Table. This is on the first page of the intro to this book, so you can easily get to it. Within moments of being born, most babies find themselves receiving the first 4 gifts of life: eye contact, a smile, a hug, and some food. We receive many other gifts in a lifetime, but few can ever surpass those first 4. That first time may be the purest, quote-unquote, hospitality transaction we'll ever have. And it's not much of a surprise that we'll crave those gifts for the rest of our lives. I know I do.
Oh my God.
That was part of the quote. That wasn't me saying I know I do.
Yeah.
But I also know I do.
Yeah.
I think that really gets us. What do you think about that?
No, I think that is such a beautiful and poignant quote. I also, the first time you read it to me, I missed that he said that it was like the purest form of service, like the first and purest form of hospitality. Yeah. I completely agree with that. It shows like the almost spiritual nature of like what we do, which is it may sound like that I'm blowing it up too big, but seriously, people do crave that. They want that eye contact, they want that smile, that feeling, and that moment of somebody like giving you food and breaking bread with you is just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the love for this, what we're doing here is. I think that's how we ended up having these conversations that we're having. Yeah. Having that, you can call it a woo-woo or obnoxiously, hippie spirituality about it, but I don't care. I love my job. So I wouldn't spend all this time with you and Ben over there if we didn't care. But we're talking about a little bit about the things that go into care from our perspective. Mostly today I've got some notes and stuff about hard and soft skills. Mm-hmm. So before we kind of dive into some of the specifics of what me and Chad want to expand upon, the concept of hard and soft skills, it's going to apply to any job, any industry. So hard skills, I tend to overthink this sort of concept, but a hard skill in a restaurant are going to be things like using the reservation software, speaking the language of the guests. Not how you speak it, just the fact that you know the language that your guest speaks. knowing how to check boxes on an inventory sheet, knowing how to push buttons on the POS system. You know, for a chef, that would be like the basic things. Knowing how to use a knife to cut something, not, you know, if you think hard skill, you're talking about the most basic thing that, like, without that skill, you wouldn't even be able to be trained how to do it.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and soft skills technically are going to be those things like teamwork. You know, something that isn't as, you couldn't necessarily write it. You know, all you could write about is teamwork is you need to work with a team.
Right.
That can be a job requirement, but obviously some people are better at working with a team verbally or non-verbally or things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're going to, hopefully you join me. So there's only two other guys in this aware of this conversation as we're having it. I'm going to expand on that concept.
Yeah.
Hard skills being the basic things that you need to do as far as, like, you know, a bartender. You need to be able to make drinks. You need to be able to, like, in a reasonable amount of time, learn the specialty cocktails.
Sure.
You need to know basically how to talk about wine.
Yeah.
And we're talking really basic, right? Like, what is a red wine? What's a white wine? How did this get made? That's some of those things that, yes, if you had your first restaurant job, you would not have to know that day one. But those are things, you know, if you're running a fully functioning program, you're hiring someone, kind of the basic stuff.
Absolutely.
I'm going to consider that your hard skills. Mm-hmm. You know, not just talking, but being able, you know, a server being able to handle multiple tables.
Yeah.
We're going to consider that a hard skill in this conversation.
For sure.
And soft skills are going to be some things where I hope we can get into and share some stuff.
Yeah, those
learn
are
some stuff here. Yeah,
those are the soft skills are really what makes divides somebody from being just competent at their at this job to, like, really great at this job. Yeah.
So we let's just talk. Hopefully, some of these things will apply to other jobs. I mean, I could imagine hospitality-wise, that's going to be, you know, anything that's customer facing. Even if you are on the client support team of a tech industry or something, hospitality is going to play a role. And yeah, I mean, I also really loved that quote talking about what is hospitality: a smile, food, eye contact. Yeah. And the first person that's going to do that in a restaurant is going to be the host. Chad.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hostess. Actually, it's a really interesting concept. I'm sure anyone that's listening has been a host or has dealt with a host before. That person, actually, it's kind of a modernized, especially in the U.S. I haven't done a lot of international travel, but I know in the U.S. that role is actually kind of newer.
Right. Yeah.
So you've probably all heard the term maitre d' before. Mm-hmm. I could look it up. I'm not going to pronounce it right or anything. If we haven't said it before, a lot of, like, especially with the finer dining, and it kind of trickles down to a lot of training protocols and stuff in modern restaurants. We look at the French. You can think in enjoyable, experience-based things. You can root so much of that cuisine and everything back to French approaches to dining and having a dining experience and having a restaurant. So in the past, and this still exists today, it's just, you know, become this host role where, like, you know, it's oftentimes like if you're employing a couple high schoolers, you know, pretty typically like the high school girls, if you're at Chili's, like that's your youngest staff members, you know, they're probably not old enough to even touch alcohol and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. You see that a lot. In the past, the maitre d' was actually what you would now call like the floor manager, or even like the front of house manager, right? The GM, whatever. In the past, that was the person who they were coming in early. Their administrative duties were like calling reservations, confirming. Sure. They were controlling the floor, right? Yep. So they're at the host stand. They're the first greet because they're assumed to be in that environment the most skilled person in hospitality. Mm-hmm. So, you know, the host is the hardest job. Would you agree?
Yeah, and it's definitely you know, like you said, it's definitely one you have to be careful who you hire. It is like you said, it's like usually that intro job to the service industry, and they're setting the tone for the entire restaurant. They are setting the tone for the entire guest experience when that person walks into the door. So they're the first one to smile, to greet you, to and to make sure that you're happy before you even sit down. There's so many skill sets within it that become more complicated. But yeah, those hard skills for it, it's like knowing how to use that tablet, which is mostly used now. Knowing how to, you're not only setting the tone for the guests, but you're setting the tone for service in general throughout the restaurant of how many people you sit where, at what rate you're sitting them. So it seems very simple at first. You're answering the phone. These days, you're dealing with DoorDash drivers, which is a whole new, for many restaurants, a whole new aspect.
Confirming, big thing now. Confirming guests. I mean, I've used a lot of Open Table.
Open Table's a huge one, yes.
Open Table's big. If you're the type to go to restaurants and look for reviews, if you've ever had a reservation with Open Table, use Open Table for reviews. That is, this is the end of 2024 when we're recording this. That is a lot of the travelers I deal with. That is how people find the good places.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because it sends you an email after a reservation and asks for a review. It's a very engaging process on the guest end. This isn't sponsored. If this was sponsored, this would be where I just naturally put it in Open Table.
Right.
Open Table sponsor us.
Yeah.
They're great, actually.
They are.
I like that program.
Oh, I think it's great.
God,
yeah.
I just took us on a different
That's okay,
direction.
but yeah,
but that would be the hard skill, right?
Yeah.
Using the technology itself.
The technology itself, absolutely.
Whereas even the hard skill would be like saying hello, good evening, how many?
Yeah.
There's always this funny thing where, think about it, excuse me, I was just holding my breath and trying to talk at the same time. There's so many scenarios in life where if you walked up on someone and they just said how many, you would be so confused.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You walk into a restaurant, how many? You're like, four. There's four. Yeah. I know the answer to this question. I'm ready for this.
I can do this. Yeah.
Or someone just says last name.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Walk to someone on the street, you'd be like, excuse me?
What are you saying?
The soft skill would be, for servers and bartenders, it's called the table read.
Yeah.
For the host, it's, once again, one of the hardest jobs because you have to read these people as soon as they walk up. Let's say you're at a place that doesn't take reservations, takes walk-ins only. A part of that skill set would be being able to get a read on what's happening with these people and get the energy of these people right away. Is this, an elderly couple? Do we need to say like, oh, good evening, good evening, guys, how we doing? They're like, hobbling in because they're 85 and walking for 85 years makes it a little harder. Sure. Or is this like a group of dudes starting their, boys' night out before they hit the bars? They're grabbing a big fat meal and they're like laughing, talking,
Totally.
How do you meet that energy so that from the moment that hospitality starts, that eye contact and that smile meets them in a way that greets them properly? Yeah.
Even a family walks in with several children, being able to look and tell the age of the child, tell that it's a 7-year-old. I can sit these people at a booth, or they have an infant in a stroller. I need to make sure that I'm putting them in a place in the restaurant that is both comfortable and accommodating for them.
Yeah, and that's when we're talking hard and soft skills. There is a little bit of gray area with what we're talking about. Sure. But hopefully, if you're in the industry and you're listening to this, if you're in one of these roles, when we talked about this topic, we were kind of hoping we could share something with you today that you haven't thought about before. Something my dad always told me that has helped me because I've been in a lot of situations where I've dealt with people that are, come from different backgrounds than me, and their whole attitude towards life is different. I don't really understand them fundamentally as a person, but something my dad's always talked to me, and my mom as well, but I always remember his voice saying is, you never know what someone's gone through. That helped me a lot when I started serving higher end guests, or when I meet them at the door. I may see someone walking in, and my first impression is like, man, this is this fucking rich guy. Look at it, he's got his Rolex on, everything. He's all like chest up. He's very like, he's proud of himself. I'm already like, oh, this fucking guy. This is not my friend. Right. But I also I've had those moments where I took this beat and I'm like, I don't know, this guy maybe is like has his own company, and maybe he's coming out today because he had a really good day or the best day of his, or he could have had the worst day ever, and he's literally trying to like make his day okay. Yeah, he's dealing with a whole different lifestyle than I could ever personally empathize with. But finding that way to greet him as an equal, or greet him in a way that would work for him. I think that from that hospitality standpoint, just like you would, you say there's a new baby, you don't say, "Oh, stop crying."
Right.
You just you're just giving, and you're creating that hospitality. And that is so much harder than so many people think.
Oh, absolutely.
To develop that outside of, because you're thinking of all these things. You got servers getting mad that you double sat them. You got you got all these things happening, and then suddenly you need to shift and become very hospitable for this person.
Yeah. I think you nailed that. I think,
and they're hungry and they're thirsty. And you're the first person they're talking to, and the last thing I want to hear is that there's a 30-minute wait.
Man, dude. Yeah, and that's something you nailed. Unfortunately, many times the host is the person who gets the most flack from both guests and servers, because they're like you just said, you got people coming in hungry and thirsty. They're already on the verge of being irritable. And then if you have to tell them, there's 30-minute, hour-long wait, you immediately have to deal with conflict resolution from the jump. Or if you have somebody that is like watching their watch and it's been like 5 or 10 minutes longer than you quoted because people are camped out, you have to deal with that. And then you have servers that, they're going to blame you because their section got double sat, and they're upset that they have to work a little harder, and they're going to go over.
What does that mean, Chad? What does double sat mean?
Yeah, so double sat is like when you have two tables either sit simultaneously or close to simultaneously, like very shortly afterwards, to where you're having to start the entire service process very quickly for multiple tables, which can be frustrating, but man, like fucking deal with it. Like frankly, like
you know what I'd say.
You need to be conscious of it as a host for sure. Like, don't just sit one person section when there's plenty of tables. Sure.
Yeah. Now, I'd say if you're a server out there that bitches at your host about getting double or triple, even triple sat. The restaurant I worked with initially at with Chad Postino, where Chad and Ben work. The way the process works is they may give you all your tables. You'll get octosat or something.
Dude. Yeah.
So one, there's people out there getting octosat when you're crying about getting double sat.
Yeah.
One. Two, if you're crying about getting double sat, maybe you should go work at Chick-fil-A. And you guys know how we feel about Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, fuck Chick-fil-A, man.
Fuck Chick-fil-A,
Fuck
dude. If you don't take anything away from this podcast.
Exactly. Exactly. But no, that's something that's huge, and they're having to for these younger people coming in. There's many people. A host is a great position if you're shy and you've never done the job before. It's a great position to get into a job where you have to talk to people every single day, and getting used to that, and then getting used to people getting mad at you and taking it with a smile and coming up with those lines that are both understanding but firm. And yes, I understand you've been waiting a long time. I'm so very sorry about that, but unfortunately there's nothing we can do right now. I promise you we'll text you when your table is ready.
Oh yeah.
Those little things of just like dealing with that and emotionally dealing with that, because that can be that can cause your heart to race, but after it happens 100 times, you get better at dealing with people in general, in that position.
And that job specifically, that part of, the restaurant service industry, the host, the door person even, excuse me, goodness gracious. It's kind of that same job. It's similar to like kind of the hotel, the overnight hotel desk worker. Those jobs have so many things that I don't have awareness of. So I'm not saying that you're just a restaurant host, but kind of the bank clerk sort of thing. even like the cashier at fast food restaurants.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. You're getting those people. You're the first touch. You set the tone for the whole experience, and I would encourage anyone to see the value in that. This is probably one of those jobs. It's you're not necessarily bringing home the biggest pack of bacon kind of thing.
Right.
Those roles are undervalued.
Oh, totally.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
It's probably, like I said, just one of the hardest jobs for so many reasons.
Yeah.
I know as a individual who has gotten to have a lot of experience in this industry so far, it has just become one of those roles where I just constantly more and more appreciate that person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, that sort of, if I can sort of pivot it, communicating, kind of like went into like the server role, right? A host and a server you're going to be communicating a lot.
Yep.
And
You have to.
teamwork, like being able to give people, use your emotional intelligence, using those soft skills between, obviously a host can be like, I've had these funny times, when I was a younger server, where a host would come up to me and instead of saying, they'd be like, "Are you okay for another table?" I'd be like, obviously letting myself get stressed out and get in the weeds. No, they're like, "Oh, well, I really wasn't asking you. I was telling you I'm giving you that day."
It's happening. It's happening whether you want it
It is
to.
awesome.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously that person was trying to soften
The blow.
That was emotional intelligence for me being a young, dumb hothead. But over time I began to realize like, nowadays if I'm working tables, I'll look at a host and they're like, as soon as they say that to me, they're like, "Are you ready for another table?" I'm like, "I'm always ready for another table.
Always.
You don't have to ask me."
Yeah.
I try to view that host as like I'm just supporting their job. Right?
Absolutely.
Their job's to get butts in seats. My job's to take care of those butts once they're in seats. Mm-hmm. Maybe not the butts themselves.
Maybe not the butts themselves, but
Unless they ask consensually later afterwards.
I'll massage a butt. I will.
Not on shift.
Not on shift. No. No. There's other people eating.
I will help you get a more comfortable chair though if you don't like a high top because you don't like your feet dangling.
Yeah.
Some of those chairs, my feet are dangling off this little high top chair right now. I like it personally.
I like it. It
but
feels good.
Not everyone's into that.
That's true. But you, like I said, that communication is key. Having the, obviously that example of softening blows, but even like, hey, we've got a 16 top coming into your section. If you could just like let that table know that they need to be out of here in like 45 minutes. Little stuff like that of like preparing. Hosting is the very start of restaurant awareness. You're just starting out to have the awareness of because you have to know what's going on in the entire restaurant. You're not yet getting to the point of knowing what waters need to be filled and more of the other skills that we're going to talk about with some of these other roles. But you're definitely getting that intro of awareness and anticipating what's going to happen next, which is a huge soft skill.
Yeah, I know. Got a little story, host related.
Give it to me.
I remember one time I had this couple came in. This guy, I think maybe they had just come from the bar. This is what happened. This couple came in. Wife was super nice. Husband was clearly they had like done some pre-dinner drinks, and they were walking into the restaurant. We had a very full Friday evening, but they came at like 5:15. Everyone was going to start coming in around like 6, right? So this is an empty restaurant, and my host, she said to the guy, "I do have a 2-top. It's this one right here. Some people found it to be unfavorable. It was like a high top near the bar, but like you're sort of in the middle of the restaurant. It was kind of a weird position, but that was all. All the other tables were spoken for within the next 30, 45 minutes.
Right.
And that I'm not going to give you this table, So she was just like, "I can give you this table. This is all I have for you." They were like, "Of course." They were just trying to get sat down. Even our bar was reserved completely. And then as the server came over, the guy was like, "Why can't we sit over one of those tables?" And I'm like, "What's going on?" And, he's a little irate with me actually. And I was like, if the host, I don't know exactly what her plan is. I know that we have a lot of people coming in pretty early tonight. I know it doesn't look like it, but he's like, "No, but there's no one in that seat. I can't. Let me sit in that seat." And I'm sure he was irate with the host initially. She seemed pretty, I saw her walk away from the situation. She seemed pretty like huffy and puffy, but obviously she didn't, bark back at him or anything. She just gave him the information, right?
Sure.
And that can be really tough. Your initial instinct is like, oh, dude, fuck you. Like, go find somewhere else, right? Like,
right.
You want to do that. And there's occasions in which there's ways to do that. If someone's quite literally yelling and throwing things. But, I looked at this guy, I was like, yeah, man, like, in 30 minutes, you'll see. This restaurant's going to be full. He's like, I doubt it. Right? And his wife was obviously like, I guess I was using my soft skills as a server at that point. I was like, keeping it real, keeping it honest. Hey, man,
right.
like, let's get you a drink.
Yep.
Here's the food. If you want to go ahead and get a snack or something, let's get it going for you.
Yeah.
I just kind of, I didn't expect it to go well. I knew this was just, this guy's, he's in a sour mood.
Right.
I'm just going to take it in stride and go with it. I mean, another. I'm just hitting you with lots of quotes. My very first restaurant manager, I worked at a Zaxby's. When he hired me, he told me two things. One, which was wild to hear at the age of 16. He said, "One, I'm an equal opportunity asshole," which I thought was
amazing.
Guy actually ended up being a total dick.
Yeah.
In so many ways. But he was just like kind of a real kind of classic old guard, just sort of crude and rude to everyone that works for him, but ran a tight ship kind of thing.
Sure.
And he's also between open and close, nothing's personal. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he kind of meant that like, I'm harsh, I'm like focused on work, I'm gonna like maybe even like raise my voice at you, but it's not about you, it's about me working.
Right.
And then I've always taken that with me, and as I've developed myself, applied that to the guests too. Like, that's not personal. They're hungry. This isn't about me as an individual. This is not about Jacob. This is, all I am doing is helping them out. It's harder.
Right.
Of course, I got that guy a drink, got him a food, babied him a little, not in an insulting way, but I wanted to. Really bad. I wanted to be like, hey, little buddy.
Hey, but you need here comes the airplane.
So badly. If I ever break, that's going to be what happens. It's going to be me just literally baby talking a grown man. Sorry, little buddy.
Well, let me tuck your little napkin in for you. There you
pull a
go.
bottle out of my pocket and start feeding him.
Do you need some whiskey?
Yeah.
You want some whiskey? Yeah.
If anyone ever serves me and treats me that way, I will laugh hysterically.
Oh, my
And
God.
if you have a baby bottle full of whiskey, I will suckle the entire thing down.
You goddamn right I will.
Just as long as we catch it on film, please.
Exactly, man.
This is me actively consenting to someone treating me like that if you ever deal with me.
Yeah.
And I'm being even kind of a dick.
Yeah.
You do it if I'm being happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
Anyways, but, lo and behold, 45 minutes later, the restaurant is full, and this doesn't always happen, so don't look for this to happen if you're in this situation. But this guy he said, hey, bro, I am sorry. You were right. Mm-hmm. I was being a total dick.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of gave his wife a look like, yeah, he was. Yeah. But, this is a big moment. I don't know. This guy's could have been the first apology he's told anyone.
Oh, man.
I don't know anything about the guy. I'd never see
Right.
him ever again.
Yeah, but that's all. That is. It is a good feeling because what you did, you acknowledged his feelings. You told him the facts. You were kind, and in the end, because you didn't like do what the natural instincts are, being an asshole to the guy, doing some dick moves to the guy, you gave him the still great service. You actually, like you said, when you say babying, I know what you mean. Like you actually gave him the best service possible and probably a little more than you would even pay attention to some other tables. And because of that, he was able to like realize, oh shit, I was wrong.
Yeah, well, that's what you do with babies when they're crying over spilled milk.
Exactly. Quite literally.
They have spilled the milk and they are crying.
Yeah.
You don't say, you idiot kid. If you do that to your kids, stop right now.
Don't do that. No.
But yeah, I mean, it's, sort of with, serving, on the serving side of things.
Yeah.
I would call that soft skill.
Oh, I would
say
absolutely.
The hard skill being literally getting him a drink, literally taking his order, that sort of thing. But getting that understanding of what's going on, setting my own emotions aside in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing, with soft skills, I think that we were really motivated about is what are some things, Chad, that you think are sort of those elevated table side?
Oh, man.
You serve tables still sometimes.
Yeah.
What are some of those things that you feel like have taken time to develop that, if you were talking to a experienced server who was having issues, maybe their tip percentage is low,
Totally.
I'm always getting 18%. I want to be one of those 24% kind of guys.
For sure.
I don't know about you. I like to brag about it. I very frequently have shifts where I'm at 22, 24%, which I'd say industry standard in our country right now is like 16 to 18 for the most part.
Yeah.
So in a quantifiable way, that's a point of success, right?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. I think with servers, you're definitely restaurant awareness is even more expanded, and anticipating your guest needs has expanded even more. And your read on tables is even more important. Is this a table that wants me to hang out for a second and joke around with them, or is this a business meeting where they have a short timeline? They want to get in and out. They're already ready with their drink, with their drink and food orders when you get to the table. Understanding that, giving them speedy service. Likewise, like how to deal with when somebody just like mentions that it's a birthday or that it's an anniversary, and natural conversation and doing something a little special for them. Finding your awareness of each table is more important, and your time management is more important as well. Where that's a huge soft skill, where you're aware that you're greeting one table, but that you have a bunch of food coming up in the window or drinks coming up in the drink well that you need to get to. So you're starting to also have to categorize tasks in your mind, which is a huge soft skill, because you're just constantly offering the service that each table wants, and having to manage your time at the same time and be aware of everybody else's section. If you're an excellent server will know that when they have their section completely locked down, that it's time to see if anybody needs something from you.
Yeah. So you mentioned the word table read.
Yeah.
I think I said something about it earlier. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What, if you could kind of like in a really sort of, short advice kind of way, how would you go about like trying to read a table?
Oh yeah.
What's your general approach? How do you make that determination of what this group is?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, you don't want to there's of course like the more obvious things of like if people are carrying in laptops or like have like notepads out. Obviously, this is like more of a business type thing, but you really get it in when you're initially greeting them. How they are interacting with you is going to be the time to get that read. Yeah. If they're like obviously like joyful and like they're getting excited about drinks, maybe they've already had a couple. Obviously, this is like a celebration. My favorite read, though, and is when you can tell that it's a Tinder date. When you can tell.
What tells you?
First dates are the best.
You guys get those.
Oh yeah.
The casual wine bar.
Yeah.
The casual chain wine bar in Denver where you can have some. You can do a full meal. You can do haps. You can do just drinks.
Yep.
Obviously, that's like kind of a prime first date spot. What's the read?
I
was gonna, one thing I was gonna say before, how I approach it is, it's very different, in the modern society of trying to be as, emotionally and like intelligent about people's identity and like communication, having just more emotional intelligence about people. I think this is kind of an old skill, and it's one thing that I think. And what makes it a soft skill is that I personally believe you have to make some assumptions about these people.
Yep, a little bit.
Obviously in our world, that's not what we do, right? You don't make assumptions. That's classic. That's why ass out of you and me, but I think within the exact scope of doing table reads as a server, bartender, even host, whatever, you can make some assumptions about the individuals.
Sure.
I'm not talking assume their income level. I'm not talking assume, what their personality might be. But yeah, suits, laptops, maybe a business meeting.
Yeah.
For gentlemen all like kind of not sitting too close to each other and sort of like kind of like very like properly. They're ordering their drinks very like sort of looking around. I mean, I'd say business meeting. You can almost always tell who the
big honcho is.
Head honcho is, right? Because he's like, he orders drinks first.
Yep.
Or the other guys kind of look at him like,
kind of gauge. Oh, how much is he drinking?
Or,
What is he drinking?
dates too, right? Like a Tinder date. What's your been? What tells you this,
bro?
Tinder date? I want to know.
I love it.
It sounds
dude.
like I think you've told me a few recently where like that's been happening.
Oh yeah.
At your location.
Yeah, I mean,
locations.
the most obvious thing is it'll be somebody sitting alone at first. They'll be the first one there, probably the one that chose the destination, and then they'll say, "Oh yeah, I'm actually waiting for a friend," and then you'll notice that they're like looking around because they don't know exactly what the person looks like. They have
some photos.
They've got some photos, but like, let's face it, if you've been on online dating, sometimes they don't look exactly like their photo.
Hey, yeah, I mean, my weight fluctuates, and I do put the ones where I'm weighing less.
Oh.
I put the pictures out there. I'll be honest.
I'm gonna put my best, baby.
I'll put one fat one on there.
Just let them know.
Look, I'm not being self-deprecating. All right, I'm just a big guy, and I live a very consistent life.
Look, you're very snuggly. I've discovered this.
Sometimes I've been traveling a lot, and I'm looking a little lean.
Yeah, exactly.
I might put that photo on the first one on the dating profile.
Absolutely.
You use dating apps a lot more than I do.
Yeah, but it's still, you don't know. And then when they see the person, it's the greet of like, they'll say the other person's name, like Sarah or Chad or whatever, and then they'll there's the awkward hug.
I've seen the awkward.
The awkward hug is you're like, I mean, we've been chatting for 3 days. Like, we should at least embrace a little bit, even if this is. And then the most fun part is seeing how well the drink or the date is going by how many drinks they're getting.
Yeah,
is always so it'll be they'll get one, and then you'll go over after their drinks are almost empty, and it'll be like, "You guys want another drink?" And you can always tell how well the date is going because one of them will look at the other one and be like, "It's up to you." And then if they go, "I think I'm okay," not going great, dude. Not going great.
I had like forgotten how many first dates I dealt with at that restaurant. I see plenty, but I just kind of never know at this point.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, it's always fun. It's always so much fun to me. But
especially at bar tops, that's a very bar top oriented thing. Drinks for first date. That could turn into dinner, but we're not going to put that social pressure.
Yeah, this is a side thing, but like also one of my favorite things is when like one of them will like go to the restroom, and then you'll get a little insight from the other person. And they'll be like, I don't know, I think she's kind of into me, but like, what do you think, man? And you get to have this whole conversation where you're bonding with the table about like, what should their next move be? Like, what should, how do I don't know. I think she's into you. The way she was looking, she touched your hand that one time. I saw, bro. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of, I wish I had more of a reference point for it. Kind of a psychological sort of approach to serving. This definitely goes into bartending too. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I think bartending, a lot of the social interaction and psychological sort of, I'll call it tricks.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've both worked in sales before. Everyone knows that, anyone that works in that sort of capacity at all will know that, we're not talking psychological manipulation like a mass scale or anything, but there's little things. One of my favorite ones was always what they call the flooding smile. So there is this sort of, it goes into like the psychology of like why people think clowns are scary, because clowns are already smiling. So I used to do this thing, and it would make, when I was like younger, like a younger guy, I would always be smiling, like when I was on the floor, like just literally kind of walking around, like. But there's this weird psychological thing, or not weird. There's just this thing for like us as humans where if you see someone that's already smiling, you know that smile has nothing to do with you, or it can be like alarming. Not like seeing a group of people smiling and laughing, but just like seeing a single individual, locking eyes with them, and they're already smiling. It doesn't feel real.
Right.
But when you make eye contact with someone and you're like it sends this this nonverbal signal that smile comes as the result of you seeing them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I mean, that was a really tiny thing that I like tried to. I think it's a lot more natural for me now. But you know, I just kind of like I do my job, and when people come in, I'm like, "Hey guys," and it sounds awkward. It sounds weird. That's something if you're feeling awkward at tables, or you feel like your first beat or initial encounter is there's tons of tiny little psychological notions that, I mean, most people know that as soon as you say it. I mean, you probably heard that and you're like, oh yeah, that's right. When people do that. Yeah. But, you know, until you've noted, I remember one time one server telling me how he always sells steaks because I can't remember. There is definitely a term for it where if there's two options someone has, you know, you never want to be like, this thing sucks, unless it genuinely does. You know,
Sure.
the salad sucks, the salad sucks.
Sure.
Be honest with people. That's my big thing. But, you know, let's say they're choosing between, you know, the whitefish and the steak. And they're like, which do you like better? He's like, well, I do love the whitefish. You can only see what I'm doing if you're watching the video right now. But I do love the whitefish and the sauce is tasty, but I also really love the steak. That you can, or if you're trying to say that they're both tasty, the fish is really good, but so is the steak. Literally, there's this subconscious thing where shaking your head no and shaking your head yes while saying whatever you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't recommend trying to use that in any sort of manipulative way.
No, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it could work on something, trying to get your buddies to go out for beer.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
it might work.
You know,
it's we could stay in or we could go out.
Yeah, yeah.
But there is these little things, and I think having a repertoire of even just, you know, hearing me say it just now, like becoming aware of that, I think is the type of thing that adds to soft skills, because it increases your confidence and helps you be more present.
Yep.
Helps you hit those table reads.
Yep.
Helps you interact with people in ways that are very accommodating. It's very hospitable. You know, you're giving people want you to do this for them. That's why they're at your table.
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it with a couple points on there. That menu knowledge is obviously a more of the hard skill. You have to know the menu of the place you're working, or at least you should.
You should know there's cheese in the sauce.
Exacth You should know, yeah, or nuts and
you know, allergies and stuff. You should know what's in the sauce.
Yeah, but
for sure,
there's having the confidence to be yourself at a table. To an extent, obviously, look, man, being able to, as we're talking about, to adjust your interaction with the table, that's just a human skill. You have to do that day to day. But not just being a scripted robot, telling them the specials, having your same spiel every single time, being able to adjust and allow yourself to be yourself. And then what you said, having the confidence when asked for a suggestion. I mean, it doesn't like, I'm going to give any server the benefit of the doubt, but when I do ask somebody's opinion, I do want their true opinion on something. Yeah. And if I get, I don't know, they're both good. Well, fucking, that didn't help me at all. As opposed to whether you're upselling them or just figuring out through basic key questions what they might prefer. They're going to be more confident that you know what you're talking about. You're going to look like the expert. Always act like the expert, period. That's another soft skill for this job. And they're more likely to tip you more for that help. They're going to have a better experience because you helped. Part of our job is, as servers, is to help guide people through this experience. They've already got the initial greet from this host. They've already got the tone set. Now you're the main story. You're the main story arc in their experience of this evening that these people...
But not the main character.
But not the main character. They're the main character.
Me and Chad,
yeah.
you and I both struggle
With being main
being
characters?
the main character at someone's dinner.
That's true.
And I will always struggle with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought we thought our opinions were so cool that we wanted to record them and talk
And
about it.
make a whole... Yeah.
We are the main characters at this right now.
No, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You're listening to us. I don't want to hear you.
No.
You can't talk to me.
No, you can't.
If you're like me and Chad, one of the hardest things is not being the main character.
No. Yeah.
It's a little easier when you're behind the bar because you're literally in the center of attention. Sure. Everyone is literally looking at you, so you kind of do have to entertain and perform a little bit. Yeah. I'm not talking about flair bartending. Just like generally,
you're on stage,
especially when you have that one, like an individual at a bar. They're basically dining or drinking and dining with you. As
Absolutely.
A bartender. I very few, unless someone has their headphones or a book or something. So more often than not, that person is there. You're their date.
You're there, yeah.
That's what I view.
They wanted to interact with somebody.
When I sit at a bar, I want the bartender to talk to me.
Absolutely.
When I'm by myself, I am very. I mean, I don't need it. I prefer it.
Absolutely, I completely agree. Before we get into the bar,
back to serving.
Back to serving. Well, let's take a little segue to. Server assistants, bussers, because I do think that is a high level of servers have a high level of awareness of the restaurant for sure, but server assistants or SAs also have to be hyper aware of different things within the restaurant.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's almost opposite from what we're talking about in terms of like table reading and emotional intelligence, of course, but it's way more oriented towards your teammates.
Absolutely.
I mean, that support role, you're supporting people in so much of that job. And I've had some really good friends of mine that I've worked with in the past couple of years that I've gotten into the restaurants I've been in and had them. They didn't have experience, so they came in as SAs. Mm-hmm. And of course, if they were trying to be a server when we were off work and talking, I'd tell them different, share with them skills and stuff like that. But they're learning the hard skills of how to be aware of a restaurant floor.
Absolutely.
And support-wise, and that is, if you were, kind of we talked about starting as a host, getting into support roles. If I hope that hearing us over time, this is maybe something you would consider getting in this industry because we love it. Yeah. But yeah, especially as you get into the higher end, the finer dining, more specific steps of service. Having that period of time in your life, even if you're a little bit older person and you think that you could you have enough like world knowledge, food knowledge, whatever, to be a server or bartender, that period of time being support, for me is super crucial. Mm-hmm. My first white tablecloth restaurant, I was a support staff member. The servers and the management were I should not be, unless a table talks to me or a guest talks to me like directly, like they directly address me for something.
Right.
Outside of asking for more water and I just go grab it, like I don't talk.
Right.
And I learned so much about like the flow of service, more than I could probably try and like say right now, but getting an awareness, a lot of times in restaurants, the more high end, the more specific steps of service at the restaurant, the more you're going to be like maybe just supporting one server, tasting menu places, things like that. You may just be one support member per server, one per two. Mm-hmm. Places that are higher volume, you'll have like one or two people going around, and you have to really dial in on those things. Like, your hard skill is this is how you fill waters, this is how you pick up plates, this is how you run food with your hands, this is how you say the name of a dish when you drop it in front of someone. So many little things like and finer dining, you're always like serving from the left or someplace, serving from one side, open elbow. There's a lot of little things like that.
Right.
I would call those hard skills.
I would agree.
They are a thing like open elbow might be, if you're working at a Waffle House or a diner, you're not necessarily that's not the vibe.
Right.
I'm not shitting on those places, but
At all, yeah.
that is just those specific things are in training materials for places depending on kind of the price point and everything.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you're learning how to read. This applies to everyone, but how to read like a server as an individual and get their tendencies. Know how to see what they need without being able to talk to them. Nonverbal communication.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's such a huge one.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That
Applies-
awareness
yeah.
is huge.
Applies to support staff members. So, there are so many ways to be. It's kind of unfortunate for someone in our position in life, because every time you have someone who's such a great support staff member, they just deserve to be.
They need to be.
They deserve to be a server, but you're so bummed to lose them as a support staff.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh man, can we just pay him more and he still like busses my tables, dude? Like,
Yeah, man. Oh, absolutely. And I think the best ones also have a sense of hustle, where they are
grinding, dude.
grinding
You're running
man.
around.
Yeah, you are like the fastest moving person in that restaurant. And like you said, there's that. Man, you're having awareness of what's going on in the restaurant on a very base level of waters are low at this table, or this table just stood up and I need to bust this table, or I need to go run this food if that's the type of, or like you said, reading your server's needs. As servers and bartenders, you anticipate the guests' needs. As an SA, you are anticipating the needs of the servers. You're also anticipating the needs of the host as well.
Yeah, and the food runners.
And the food runners.
You're in like kind of I guess what I would call like a pure SA role, where you're
Yeah.
very floor oriented.
Sure.
Grabbing plates out of servers' hands, that sort of thing. I mean, obviously every restaurant's different, and we're speaking in very blanket terms here.
We are, because there are different,
Some
like
places,
you said.
Some places are like us. Like all you're supposed to do is clean dirty things off of tables and fill
Sure.
waters. That's your only role. Or some places it's like, you're supporting. The server's number. Like take another drink order. Whatever.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I think Postina's a little like that. If you can,
A little bit, if you can, most of the time we prefer that you get your server to do that. But yeah, that's totally, and I completely agree with you. That is the best place to learn the flow of the restaurant, the pace of the restaurant, and to really push yourself. Because if you can handle yourself and become like a really good SA, that transition to server is so much smoother.
Yeah.
Because you're used to the pace, and actually you're many times running at a higher pace. So like what we were talking about earlier, you become a server that was trained as an SA before, that worked as an SA before, and you're not going to be bothered by being triple set because you're used to being that busy.
did we say what we SA server assistant?
Server
That's what that
assistant,
means.
yeah, SA, yeah,
Yeah. Sorry,
It's
server
a short
assistants.
term for it. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
pretty common now.
The term support
Yeah.
is pretty big. Usually you have food runners who, especially kitchens that have, like the kitchen's very separate from the rest of the restaurant. Some places don't do food runners.
Right.
A lot of times, in certain restaurants, the servers run their own food. In some places you have what's just a busser, and their only job is literally to bus tables.
Yep.
They don't fill water or anything.
Yep.
There's so many different versions of that role. Actually, at this, there's some programs. I think I'm going to quote specifically Tavernetta in Denver, just because I had a friend work there. They have a brilliant program, but and there are plenty of restaurants that do this where you start as like a host or something first.
Yep.
That is, no matter if you've been a bartender for 20 years, you are starting right here.
Mm-hmm.
And they call it an RBP. It's a run, bus, polish.
Mm-hmm.
That's the role. So you run food, you bus tables, and you polish glassware. I think when my friend was telling me about it, I could be wrong, but like you're not refilling waters. You can tell a server someone needs water, but you run food, you bus tables, and you polish glassware. And But by the time you've moved up, whether someone's left or whatever in that program, whether it happens to be 2 months after you start or a year after you start, which I think is what makes that everyone that works there had to work their way into it. So that's why they run such a well-received program. There is not an opportunity for you to like miss how this place flows, how much time, and then you're able to dial so much, right? Like that's still kind of hard skill, I would say.
Sure.
Knowing how long, if the kitchen's working properly, how long things should take. For a kitchen person perspective, that would be the hard skill, or the soft skill would be like knowing how to run. You have a station with apps and making one appetizer at a time is one thing, but everyone in the restaurant ordering from your station at once, and how to keep that time frame. If they expect 5 to 7 minutes for appetizers, how do you perform that? Obviously that multitasking for your station, that's going to be a different skill set than knowing how to make the dish.
Absolutely.
And I would go into more about back of house stuff, but I just am not enough of an expert whatsoever.
No, we'll have to do a back of the house episode where we bring somebody on to really talk about that.
Like,
that would be fascinating.
Well bartending, I'm always going to.
Well, let's move into bartending.
Yeah, if you want to. Hey,
get it, bro.
Let me just also shout out the support staffs out there.
I thought we were about to shout out Ben for supporting us in this podcast.
Oh, that's our support staff member, man. Yeah. He's our back weight.
But yeah. Sorry.
Hey, good roll. If you're a stoner, it's great. Just get high as fuck.
Oh, dude, and just put your head down. It's wonderful.
Once you know the table numbers, once you're flipping, dude.
Dog. Oh, you can just put your head down and grind,
Some of my favorite support staff members have been some of the highest people I've ever known.
Yeah.
So you keep getting high.
Yeah, you keep taking those safety breaks, those safety meetings.
You do. Yeah, you do whatever you gotta do.
Do it, man. That's fine.
You need a $5. You come back out and whatever.
Whatever, dude. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bartender, baby.
Bartending, man.
Oh, this is
obviously what we're passionate about.
It is what we're passionate
about.
And I would say, front of the house staff, there's a reason why the bartenders are usually the most skilled.
Should be. There's, we're at a really interesting time.
Yeah.
Some people have said post-COVID to me recently. I don't know. I think I may be lucky enough to have worked. I don't know. My experience is too anecdotal for me to have a grasp on the industry, and as a whole, I guess I've noticed that people that are newer, that have started gotten to the restaurants maybe after COVID shut down restaurants and everything. I guess there is a little bit of a different perspective.
A little bit. Yeah.
I can't track whether I'm like, am I getting older? I mean, at my new restaurant, I was working the service well, literally 2 nights ago, and one thing I hate as a bartender is a server standing there waiting on drinks.
Oh my God!
But I'm new to this place. I'm not trying to be a dick.
Sure.
I don't know what all these people's, it's gonna be a few weeks before I say that to anyone. I'm not gonna yell at anyone. I promise you guys.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Is this person's first serving job? As far as they know, with that specific topic, it's like, oh, my table needs drinks, and I want to run them as soon as they're ready. As the bartender, I'm like, there's
other
unless it is like getting poured right now, run the other drink, go do something else, whatever.
Yeah.
That's such a tiny little thing. I'm not here to bitch about one thing with servers, but I was, different servers that I was working with in that well. When I say service well, I mean the bartender that's making drinks for the servers in the restaurant, as opposed to the bar top. Some people call it point. Some people, there's so many different terms.
There's so many.
Working the rail.
Yep, working the rail
versus the well. That's those sort of things. So many awesome terms.
Yep.
But you're either as a bartender, you're either serving guests directly, or you're doing the service well.
Yeah.
Many bars that might be the same guy.
You might be doing both. Yeah.
So many different situations, but in a restaurant setting, there's an area where the servers are grabbing drinks and taking them to tables, and you're making tickets.
Totally.
But I was doing that, and I noticed there were these different servers on the floor. Some of them I was just meeting the other night. that had different tendencies, and I was like making mental notes, like, oh, this person does this. This person is kind of like this. You know, I had one person who was like waiting on their drink, and then that person also was like, are you guys gonna clean the glassware? It was kind of funny. I was just like, well, you know, I'm making your drinks right now. I mean, there's a million little tiny, funny, fast-paced interactions at restaurants, and any bartenders we're little divas.
Oh.
We bitch about everything. Let me get that straight.
100%. That's
All right.
yeah. Every bartender thinks they're the best bartender in the world, for sure.
Yeah, like I mean, even if they don't say it, even if they say no, I don't. In their head, they probably feel that way.
do. Yeah.
I kind of went on a tangent there. You said this. I agree. It should be the most
Should be the most skilled.
the most skilled.
Yeah.
I mean, combination. Hopefully, like the most tenured, the most knowledgeable, the most skilled.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll just be the guy that's been there the longest, and that is the biggest idiot in the room.
Right. Right.
But if you kind of look at what I would call a classic interpretation, if I were to go into a restaurant, I would assume that like the support staff and the host people are the newest, the least tenured members of the staff in the front of house. The servers are going to know a little bit more, and the bartenders should be the most involved, the most aware.
Yeah.
I'd say there is this little bit of this trope of like people going into bartending. I've met a lot of servers that are a bit older than me that just got so tired of bartending they just went back to serving.
Really? Oh yeah. I mean, because it
Especially in
does.
some finer restaurants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just because that's personal preference. So you sometimes do get that.
Sure, but it is like because I mean you have to have a higher knowledge set. You have to know not only the menu, but you have to know, and not only the these are the hard skills. Not only the cocktails on the menu, but you have to know an assortment of classic cocktails, of what cocktails are popular. You have to have a higher level of liquor knowledge, and you have to have a higher level of awareness. You have so much. You literally just have more to do as a bartender, and you have more responsibility. Moment to moment, you have more responsibility in the restaurant than servers, SAs, and hosts.
So frequently when people they quote someone a 5-minute wait to get their table ready, those people immediately walk up to the bar. So you don't have a second for them to sit down and wait to order their drink. They are walking and they need you right now. Mm-hmm. And if they wait for 5 minutes and then get to their table, there's going to be a weird moment.
Yep. Yeah.
For them. And so,
and your level of awareness is through the roof because you're having to be aware of your bar guests for sure. You're having interactions with each one of them. Now, of course, if you're like you said, there's places where you have just a well bartender and one that's working the rail. If you're working both, you're having to decipher whether this ticket came before the person's drink that you just ordered.
Oh, yeah.
It's usually all at the same time. It's usually all at the same time. Yeah, and you're
an infinite double
cataloging. Man, your list of, just like with servers where you're having to create this list of tasks in your head that change moment to moment, because you might be like in the middle of all these tasks and then all of a sudden somebody breaks a glass over the well and now you're having to take care of that before, and then still remembering.
I broke a glass into my well.
Dog, it's the worst.
2 weeks ago before my restaurant closed. And it was at 7 o'clock as 5 tickets were printing. It was awesome. It was awesome. That is, I would say, the worst possible thing that could happen.
100%.
Outside of as far as, regular risks at the bar.
Oh my God, dude. It's such a pain in the dick. It's just
and I know there's you've got dive bar bartenders. You got,
sure.
I've got one friend who he started in like a nice cocktail bar, and he worked in one restaurant for a really small amount of time, and he's just only bartended, and very different experience than what we're talking about. And there's plenty of those folks out there. You guys, there's some really great. I might rustle Rustle some jimmies? Is that the term?
Rustle some jimmies.
Ruffle some feathers.
Get some
jimmies rustled.
Get some. Let's ruffle some
Rustle some
jimmies.
jimmies.
Let's flick some jimmies
Flick
up and
some
down.
jimmies.
Let's flip them.
I'm gonna. No, there is this. Once again, my opinion totally.
Yeah.
There's some excellent drink makers out there. There's some people who know drinks super well. I've worked with some of them. I think that there is a difference. I'm going a little off topic right now.
No,
but
let's go.
There's bartenders and there's drink makers. There's people who know how to make every drink out of every cocktail book you could find, and they're great at like coming up with new drinks, but they're essentially like a chef. Mm-hmm. You know, some of these people call themselves mixologists. I like the term cocktologist personally. I mean, I like the term bartender.
Yeah.
Personally, and that's how I identify.
Totally.
I mean, it's very different, right? Cocktail bar, dive bar bartending, club bartending, very different styles.
different.
Obviously, you know, there's going to be those, you know, everyone knows that margarita's got tequila in it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's so many of those things that go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, any person who lives a bartending life owes it to themselves to maybe try and find an opportunity to try all different types of bartending.
Oh, yeah.
I know I've benefited from it. But since, you know, we're mostly talking about restaurants here, you know, that's, you're serving food at the bar top. You're making drinks. You're making, you know, call beverages that someone might ask for something, you know, really unique.
Yes.
That you've never heard of. And
might have to.
sometimes people are ordering. A lot of restaurants now, you kind of, since cocktail bars have been common for a long time, your average consumer, in my opinion, knows a bit more about cocktails. So they're more likely to order something that in the past hasn't been common. You know, get people asking for last words all the time, and that's not a cocktail that 10, 15 years ago people were asking for.
It's my favorite cocktail, though.
I love last word.
Love last word, dude. It's so goddamn good.
I like equal parts cocktails because it's just incredible that you can put the same amount of one ingredient and somehow make something, or the same amount of multiple different ingredients, and somehow that works.
Somehow I know, man. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that, like you said, there is a difference. I'll give you an example. So the first cocktail bar I worked at, I had been going to this bar beforehand as a consumer because I was in love with craft cocktails and classic cocktails, stuff like that. And I would get in a conversation with one of the bartenders who had such a deep knowledge of different liquors and types of cocktails, classic cocktails. We would get in these deep conversations, and he could make all kinds of incredible cocktails. And then I worked with him, and this guy could not consolidate his actions, could not do two things at one time. And I discovered that it was like, oh yeah, this guy makes drinks really well, but he can only make like one drink at a time really well.
He makes a drink really well.
He makes a drink really well.
So you're talking about, are you talking about he lacks soft skills, Chad?
The soft skills of
that what
being
you're
a
saying?
bartender. That is exactly what I'm saying.
Oh my God.
That's how, yeah.
I mean, and it's, you know, like we started before, we all think that we know everything.
Sure.
That's, and let us underline what we're talking about here, because, and if you disagree, maybe, you know, send us a message.
Yeah.
Comment us.
Comment on us. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, take a cut of us saying this. And,
And be like,
pin
fuck
it and disagree aggressively on your bartending Instagram that has lots of followers. Please
Do
disagree
it.
with us.
Please disagree with us.
And
I'm
we'll
totally
bring
down
you
with
on
that.
the podcast.
Yeah. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, but it's obviously a unique set of skills, and I've been very fortunate to work with some people that are more skilled than me. I've also worked with people that are newer than me, and I've gotten to share some insights with them. And I mean, that's really where soft skills, you usually wouldn't end up behind a bar, especially at a restaurant, without those hard skills being known.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I guess if you talk about bartending specifically, hard skills would be like knowing how to use a jigger to pour 1.5 ounces of vodka and pouring that in a drink, or, you know, even some of the more specific details, such as when you build a cocktail, doing your cheapest ingredients first so that if you mess up, you're not wasting a lot of product. I'd say certain pieces of information like that, I would still count as hard skills.
I would agree.
Just because that can be, with the definition earlier, literally using your hands to pour liquid would probably be the technical hard skill
Sure.
of a bartender.
Sure. Yeah. Knowing the proper way to shake.
Yeah, but being able to hold a shaker in your hand and shake it.
Exactly.
Whereas some people, the information I was looking at, like the theory of what kind of ice you're using and how long you should shake that and what the dilution levels, which is amazing. Would be an amazing topic for a cocktail podcast, but that's not necessarily us.
Yeah.
There is a lot of that goes in there, and if you're an aspiring bartender out there, or if you're currently a bartender, there's infinitely more and more specific information you can learn from. So you are a student of life and a student of bartending, and
Absolutely.
I would call that the soft skill. Always be learning.
I love that.
Happens with, even the greatest chefs or, greatest, most successful restaurant managers. And those are the people that I've always found have the greatest success, both with me, like what I can see firsthand, and the type of individuals that have your great success in the restaurant world. And it's the type of people that are always, they have an idea. They know how to do something well, but like there's their attitude in general for their job, and it usually bleeds into their lifestyle, is like there's something I know how to do this, but I'm not necessarily right. And we get to be both of those things sometimes, where I think I know everything, and I also try to not act like I know everything.
Man, yeah, this is off topic, but my buddy's dad, I will never forget this quote. We were sitting by a fire having some scotch, drinking smoking some cigars, and I forget what brought it up, but he said, "Chad, you need to be willing to wake up every day, willing to be wrong about everything." I was like, "That is, yeah."
No, I mean,
Absolutely. How else can you learn?
open-minded.
Being open-minded.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's. I agree wholeheartedly with that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people out there that disagree with that notion. My values and my knowledge, and yes,
Sure.
There's things I know. I know how much wine goes in this glass for a single pour. I feel pretty confident in that. Mm-hmm. Our restaurant does 6 ounces. I know how much 6 ounces is in this glass. That's. I don't think that's what we're talking about, really.
No. We're talking about deeper. Yeah, absolutely.
I could be wrong about the appropriate pairing with this dish from our own wine list, and someone could make a very good point to me, and I should be open to hearing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely, man.
Because if I act like this is right, it's just going to bleed into my existence, and going back to it as hospitality and being honest and being a human, just like that human thing of feeding a baby and hugging it and smiling and giving eye contact. If you translate that to like serving a wealthy guest at a bar, having that human moment with them is, the whole reason we would even bother to talk about hard and soft skills.
Man, dude, yeah.
Because ultimately, I love what we do, because it's really just having that human interaction. And obviously there's so many little things. Part of having human interaction is knowing when to prioritize your your tickets over your bar guest, or vice versa, or being knowledgeable about when you make mistakes. I think that kind of bleeds into everything else and every other job in the restaurant. Something I thought earlier is, and what I think is one of the most difficult soft skills, and one of the most important things, if I could give a top 3 sort of thing to any restaurant individual, is knowing how to ask for help. I think that if I could go to every restaurant and every bar and talk to every team member, this would probably be, and tell them one thing. It's like, hey, learn how to ask for help.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In life in general, I feel like we keep saying that, but you got all these tables. I got it. Maybe you don't got it. I don't got it.
Right.
Can you help me?
Yeah.
Can you do this, dude? Yeah. It's like, that is, to me, in the scope of the industry, one of the most important soft skills.
Yeah, man.
Communication approaches that way more people would benefit from than I have experienced in my tenure in bars and restaurants. And yeah, I mean, that's a lesson. Learning how to do that in my career has helped me learn how to do it in my life.
Yeah.
And I think that I've made the point.
I think
actually.
I get that. Yeah.
I mean,
No, I completely agree with you,
It's
man.
so hard when you're in those moments and you're highly stressed. But you know, being able to look at anyone, your manager, your coworker, your support staff member, and being able to say, "Can you help me with this right now?"
I'm in the weeds right now. Can you please help me?
Yeah, whether or not they can, that's a whole separate topic. Being able, kind of being honest. Maybe I'm saying that being honest is the biggest skill.
Well, yeah. Well, also, I mean, and this goes for every aspect of the front of the house, and this goes to back of the house too. Communication is just everything when it comes to a restaurant. Service can fall apart if every department is not communicating well with each other.
Within itself and back and forth.
Exactly, back and forth, and keeping that line of open communication, and being willing to ask for help, and being understanding of people when they're stressed, depending, because that's going to happen as well. And being willing to communicate with them in those moments of stress is huge, man. Absolutely. How do you feel? Okay, so we've had this conversation before. Going back to bartending, I love watching a bartender that is multitasking and fucking like making like 4 or 5 drinks at the same time, building a whole line of them.
Oh, it's fun.
I
dinner
love
and a show.
It's dinner and a show because you are on stage, right? You're on stage, and this is showtime, baby. When you get that, I get excited when I get like 10 cocktails back to back.
Super fun.
Oh yeah, dude. And you're reading it, and you're like, how can I consolidate all this and line up all these glasses and make sure that I am making these as fast as possible? And that's usually when I get complimented. It's like, damn, dude, I just saw you make all of those in like 5 minutes. Like,
Certainly.
yeah, goddamn right. Goddamn right I did.
Yeah, no, it feels great.
It feels great.
awesome.
And I love seeing it too.
Yeah.
Oh, bro.
Just
When I see our boys doing that like double stir thing, which I still can't do. Holy shit.
I'll show you some doubles.
Okay, all right. I want to get
I'm not actually that good at it.
It's just like somebody doing 4. Oh my god.
Oh, I mean that's and I've seen people that I would call good drink makers be able to do that. I've seen great bartenders that kind of suck at like making drinks fast, and I would like to be all of the above personally.
For sure. For sure.
So many little things.
Yeah.
I mean that's I feel like a whole separate podcast really to break down every single
Skill
little bartender
set.
thing. But
Yeah.
there's so much satisfaction. I think that's kind of that role where when people haven't worked in restaurants, they see the bartender and they you just get to watch all of it because they're staying back there in little bartender land. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that people see and they're like, oh, I would want to do that.
Yeah.
But all of those skills we talked about with all those other roles, and that's why I do feel firmly that you don't really want to have bartenders that haven't, especially in a restaurant, that haven't done every other role. Maybe
Absolutely.
not in that exact restaurant, but in the past. And because you're making the rest of everything up. There's way more people on the floor. There's way more people at tables. Mm-hmm. That's what I meant when I said on the floor. Hopefully there aren't people literally laying on the floor.
No, that would be good. Yeah, you guys have fucked something up.
You're managing inventory back there. You're managing product. You're doing all these things. You're making regulars.
Yeah. Oh, that's huge.
I mean, and that would maybe be like kind of like one of the last things I would want to share to any like bartenders listening is something I find very important. I think most bartenders easily get excited about learning to make drinks, getting excited about how fast can I make 10 drinks? Can I make 10 drinks in under 10 minutes, that sort of thing. And that is all super awesome. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of amazing content creators out there that you can go find. I hope I get to talk to some of them someday. Yeah. That talk all about cocktails and history with it, but when it comes to service, when it comes to dealing with guests, I feel like that doesn't get talked about a lot in our little niche, at least from what I've seen. Mm-hmm. Mostly it's service oriented for servers and things like that. and someone sits right in front of you, right at your bar. What are we doing? What are we talking about?
Right.
You know,
Right.
Something, people say that they're therapists for their regulars. I mean, I've been, some of the most like intense conversations I've had with strangers have been when I'm behind a bar.
Yeah.
People tell me all sorts of things about their life that I maybe can't even tell their family.
Yeah.
And beyond that, as a professional that's trying to, like, on a lighter note, like trying to get someone to sit at my bar. I'm currently at a restaurant that we don't have a lot of regulars because it just started.
Sure.
I was at a restaurant that was closing. It was at the end of its time, and the new one I'm at is at the beginning of its time. And I love building regulars. When I worked for you at Postina, that was like, I felt I had a amount of success with getting people to keep coming back.
Absolutely.
And my thought process with that is, as an example, is kind of the example I usually use is someone's sitting at your bar on a Wednesday night. It's because they already don't have a bar that they go to on Wednesday night. Like a brand new person, someone you've never met before.
Yep.
If someone's, early weeknight, Tuesday, Wednesday night, they're sitting at your bar for the first time. They're local or something. They might not have a place that they drink on that night or like to come to on that night. And those are always the people that I like to try and connect with in those slower nights. And I feel like a big part of the job as bartending is big. It's huge for servers as well. I'm not going to try and act like it's just behind a bar. Just building regulars in general is super huge. It sounds like we could probably just talk another hour about that.
Oh, we'll talk regulars, but you're dead on.
So I'm just gonna leave it at.
Restaurants live and die on regulars, man.
Yeah,
like
man.
they're the ones that come into your restaurant, whether it's the busy season or the slow season. Most places cannot rely on like
Unless it's a
tourist
tourist
season.
destination.
Yeah.
I mean, you have those places that are like at the beach.
You
or
do.
in the ski resorts.
Yeah, but for the
Places
most
also
part,
close off season sometimes.
exactly. For the most part, like if you're talking about a place in a main city, major, or even small towns, you live and die on your regulars, and building those it's just everything, man. Just like you said, it's such a soft skill, and it's reading your guest, it's building those connections, getting deeper. We will definitely talk about that
I
again.
don't know. Maybe it comes up next time. Maybe we just got our next idea.
Oh man, yeah, yeah. Actually, if y'all, we'll make a post, but y'all send us stories of your favorite regular stories.
Your regulars are your favorite, or tell us what soft and hard skills you want.
Yeah, that we should talk about.
Man, tell us what we got wrong. Tell us that you love us or that you don't love us.
Exactly.
Connect with us.
Yeah, dude, absolutely.
Yeah, we've got. I don't know if we've gotten to plug it. Yes, yet we do have all the socials up and running now.
We do. Yep.
Should have already. Might have to tag this in earlier episodes or something.
Sure.
It's in as many places as we could get it. It's WTF_closed last night is the handle. That's the online handle. Please come check us out. Hit us a follow if you have a friend or family member or enemy who you want to take up all their time by listening to us. Check us out.
Yeah.
Check out the pages. Maybe you can end up in a bar at the same time as us when we're doing one of our on locations. We're really excited about keeping going and chatting it up with all you guys.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you guys for listening, man. We'll catch you on the next one, bro. And that was another episode of Who the Fuck Closed Last Night. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Thank you for following us on all our social media platforms. If you aren't already, check us out at WhoTF_closed last night on all of the social medias. And big shout out to our boy, Blake Rightnower. Man, another banger from our boy Blake. Check him out on Instagram at Blake D. Wright, RITE, and all his badass music at internetslang_LTD. Also, if you would, check out our website. We've got great merch on there with the artwork by Tom Berger. Great t-shirts and sweaters. Snag some merch, y'all. All right, until next time. Who the fuck closed last night?